tonight. First order of business, I'd like to make the record reflect that Ms. Liberatory is absent today. And we are going to approve the minutes from the last board meeting on August 5th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Would anybody like to second it? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Let the record reflect the minutes are approved. Our first order of business tonight is 393 Pond Road. Sir, please come on up, and if anybody else is here for Pond Road, they're welcome to join us at the table as well.
Actually filling in tonight for the project engineer in the app.
Fair enough. So, sir, last time you were here, we'd asked for an updated site plan minus the barn, and I think some elevation additions and some things of that nature.
Correct. Yes, we've prepared an updated site plan, the removal of the barn, as you said, updated disturbance area, no detail on the grading and the cross section of the proposed retaining wall. We have a full set to scale tonight if you guys want to look at that. Those were the primary changes based off of the comments from the last meeting. We've addressed the code officer's comments and MRB's comments. This is the refreshed set reflecting that.
Okay. Start the conversation. Does anybody from the planning board have any questions? And I know that everybody's, I think we've had some time to review electronically. I don't know if anybody wants a hard copy or not. But
I have a, yes, I have had a chance to look. I think you guys addressed everything quite well, and I'm satisfied. I'm off with it. I think it's great.
Great, thank you. I didn't have anything else on this. I don't know if any of my colleagues do or if Mr. Young does.
I don't have anything in addition to last time.
Okay. So, do we have anything outstanding then for 393 Pond Road with the updated site plan with all of the documentation that we have so far? Is there any outstanding questions at this time?
I think from an engineering standpoint, the biggest one is just I haven't really had a chance to go through the updated plans in detail yet, but look at the updated plans. I think the biggest one that stands out is the SWIP for the project. I think the town code requires that approval, but if they're willing to give that, let's see why they can do a conditional approval. As long as they satisfy all the comments of the engineering state.
Okay.
What were you looking for? The SWIP.
Oh, okay.
The SWIP report itself.
Is that in your comment letter that needs to be reviewed?
I in the last comment letter that I prepared.
It is.
That we require a SWIP. And I think there's a section of the code that also requires it, so I think I'd like to at least see that and have a chance to review that before I recommend to approve the application.
And we did include in our response letter that we would provide that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the conditions on the resolution is any outstanding comments in the engineer for the town need to be addressed,
Yeah.
as long as that's in your comments.
Yeah.
And it is.
It will be. Like I said, I think I just got of these last week, or the revised comments and plans.
Okay, let me
the beginning
just-
of this week. So yeah, once I get a chance to do a deeper dive into the plans and the responses, I think we can go ahead and done this.
And we'd be happy to comply if that was a condition of the approval of any remaining engineering or town comments.
I think we can live with that.
Yeah.
Is that the opinion? No, okay. All right. Is there any other outstanding questions? Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the resolution that the attorney has prepared for us?
Approved with conditions, do I?
Yeah,
have to say?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, the resolution includes them, I
Oh.
believe, already.
Yep, it has two conditions. One is addressing the comments. Two is obtaining any necessary permits. I could update the condition about the engineer to say any outstanding comments of the town engineer, including any additional comments received as a result of the revised plans. Is that okay?
Please do.
Okay, done.
Do I have a motion to approve this? approved. Any second? All in favor? Aye, okay. Thank you, sir. Approved with these conditions, and thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Next one.
All right, for, let's see, Mr. Parks.
Yes.
And if anybody else would like, please come on up, sir.
Tom Barks.
Yes, sir. Okay, so I think that we had some questions about driveway and about a whole like host of issues, but they were easy to resolve. And then there was the barn that I think we have somebody here who wanted to speak on that also. Is that correct? Was somebody from BCB, I'm sorry, for the Historical Preservation Commission?
Well, the barn is remained, the house.
I'm sorry.
Let us move on, but we received this morning, but assistant house, yeah, and we'll talk through that.
Okay.
So again, both I said, anybody wants to look at those? Jump over to our site plan on this. We have added stationing onto the driveway here. We've added the radius primary curves of the project here, decreased the curve coming up through the top of the hill. We've ensured that our overall slope is under 8%. I did talk with the code officer this morning, seemed content with that. We try not to exceed 8% slope. We've widened the entrance into the garage area here to allow for better access for turnaround for fire trucks and fire apparatus. We've expanded our emergency turnout to 20 feet adjacent to the hydrant area. And added on the standing area of the apple trees to show screening to Rush Run Road. We've added the 50-foot expansion area in the septic system. We've pushed the septic tank closer to the turnaround for better access for pumping in the future. And added flow arrows on there, check dams and driveway swales down the steeper portion of the driveway here going up the hill. Those were the primary changes. We've relocated one of the driveway culverts down closer to West Bloomfield Road for better access to drainage. There is a culvert underneath that new entrance area here. So that's been looked out with the timing to the T. Those are the primary changes in the grading plan. We can maybe address any of those further questions, then we'll get into the existing house on the property. Based off of the letter from the historic commission.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, I think you progressed everything there.
Do you have your steep slopes called out? To have jute mesh and all that, whatever you need there to stabilize them.
We don't have any slopes exceeding 1-on-3, so usually anything.
Right there, that's not.
That's gonna be a landscape wall here.
Gotcha.
We've shown, that's a good question, good point. This is more of a landscape stacked stone
Oh, I see.
or similar
Gotcha.
configuration.
Mhm. I was gonna say, that's pretty.
That's very steep.
Pretty good slope.
That would require probably more than 2 months to add it. But no, that's a good point.
So I guess we can move on to the house.
Yes, so we did receive a letter from the Historic Commission. I did prepare copies, Don, I apologize, I didn't email that to you, but that copy.
How dare you?
Right. While we're on the topic here, you did submit a letter to SHPO, so Historic Preservation for the state. They came back saying that there was no adverse impact, but the Historic Preservation Commission did visit the property, and they essentially spoke to looking in a way to preserve the existing house and property. So it was our plan to demolish that structure. We have restored the historic barn more recently. There's been a significant investment in that effort. We want to work to accommodate to the best of our ability, reasonably speaking. We don't see that there's a way to keep that in its location on the property, but Tom has been working with the gentleman to propose to just instead of demolish, dismantle the structure and relocate it. So that would be a compromise we're pursuing, but we do need to remove that structure. Otherwise, we'd have 2 primary structures in the property, by subdivision. Different access would be very complicated.
So if my understanding is correct, sir, this is not a historical building per our own EPODs. However, the HPC does have an interest in it because it is old. And one thing that I think I also remember is it's kind of a ship of Theseus, where it's been rebuilt several times, so maybe it's not super old.
The outside's deceiving.
Yeah,
The inside does have original wooden posts in there.
Oh, cool.
So I haven't been inside the house.
what would be, I mean, the cost of moving that sounds like it might be a lot of money. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, you must be.
And then procuring another building, another lot in which to place it,
Yeah.
Well,
moving it, yeah.
Joe was here, an interested party and like a historic preservation contractor. He was in there a couple weeks ago and I'm over there. Showed him what the house was all about, got him in there, and opened up a couple of walls to make sure it was what he thought it was, and it is a timber frame home part there,
Really?
the two-story part there. So Joe was interested in taking the house apart and putting it on another piece of property, I believe down in Silvis.
So we would be willing to modify our request to instead of demolish, dismantle that dwelling. We still need to demolish the garage, which has whatever known historic significance. We need that for our driveway access, but we can modify our resolution to dismantle instead of demolish the whole. Okay.
What is it Joe?
Yeah, Joe.
What is his? How does he fit into all?
Sir, would you like to come up?
Yeah.
If you're most welcome.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, please do.
Well, I was a Kodak chemist for 40 years, but I kind of take up another occupation after I retired. I take down old buildings and put them back up again. I just did one of my latest projects at 535 Parish Road up here. I can show you a quick picture of it. There it is right there. It was in Phelps. And I disassembled that and put it all back up again. It's farther along now. That's by Rochester's most famous architect. His name is A.J. Warner. He did the Powers Building, he did George Eastman's house, he did City Hall, he did all the major buildings, St. Mary's Hospital. This is up at 535 Parish. So wonderful. Yeah, so it can be done quite easily. His house is like it's about a 3-bed house. You know, they build these things in beds and it's a framework and there's 3 of them and they build them on the ground. You've probably seen Amish guys raise barns, the same thing. You raise it up and then they do the second bed, then they do the third bed and they check them together with prongs. So the hardest part is just stripping out the inside and you know, then you just disassemble it and it's pretty easy really. These things are put together with square cut nails. They come right apart very easily without breaking the wood. And
Mortise and tenon and.
then it's mortise and tenon, you just got tendons out and you just take it apart, you label 1, 2, 3 the vents and they're all kind of built the same. And you know, I've watched in this town, the reason I did this, because right here in this town, I mean, there was a couple old timber frame houses right on the outside of town, right across from the fireman's field there. You know, and they just ripped them down for no reason really. They were perfectly sound houses. There was even an old windmill, a wooden windmill there. They ripped that down. So, and just recently in Bloomfield and right around here, a whole bunch of old timber frame houses. So it's kind of a passion of mine just to save these things.
How did you become aware of this opportunity?
I've been kind of doing this my whole, I own Avenue and Herb Gardens right out here on the corner of Rick Mills and Down Hill.
Yep.
And
That's a great building.
I moved a barn there, you know, 35 years ago, took it all apart and moved it. And all the improvements I've done in that house has been other old buildings I've taken apart and then reused the pieces. But then I started thinking, well, I just put them right back up again.
So what's involved in you acquiring the house?
It's free to Tom. I just take it apart and I get the house, he gets it taken down. I take it to my property and put it back up again.
Where's the proposed new location?
I have property in Port Bay and it's a waterfront thing. I have
Port Bay, I'm not familiar with it.
directly north of Woolgate.
Okay,
So it's between Sodas Bay and Fairhaven, either of those two. Well, it's right in between there. It's kind of an unknown bay. It's pretty nice, so really. And I have 3 acres. I have 3 lots there actually. And, I'm gonna put his on one of them. And, I'm taking down, I'm taking down a log cabin on Cuba Lake tomorrow, and that's gonna go on another one.
Stay away from my house.
Well, this
It's
sounds,
built before 18 years old.
So, the unique alternative.
this sounds like the best possible, yeah, arrangement.
So you're talking about the componentry that you're be taking is basically the timbers.
No, I take the whole inside. I'll take all the moldings, I'll take all the doors. It'll look just like it did. The only difference is I'll put drywall up instead of plaster. You know, that's just not
Do you
feasible.
mark it like the Statue of
take-
Liberty, like then when they, when we brought it over from France and then put it back together with
It's not that, it's very simple. It's a very simple, especially that house is just
Square.
rectangle. It's super simple. Yeah, and you know, all the stairs come out in one piece. You take the roofing off, then you just pop up the sheathing and you take the rafters and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, and that's all you gotta do. Put it back together.
And the sheathing is probably wide
So-
one by boards.
Yeah, and
Big-
some of the sheathing, like a lot of times, the sheathing on the roof will be bad because it's just been up there so long, but if it's not, I put it back down, and then, I put target over it, and I'll probably put a metal roof on this when I'm done with it, so that's just the way to go these days.
If there's componentry that's can't be reused, in other words, you don't wanna go upstairs and look up at the roof and see OSB.
No, that's why I put
So if you don't have enough,
I have.
okay, so you've got an inventory of
So
stuff,
I've taken down
okay.
barns upon barns, and, you know, I just have, you know, I've got a lot of material. So I'll just use another material on there, and you put that sheathing back on, you put tar paper on it, you put a metal roof on, you don't see the metal roof. And, you know, like that.
So you would use the trim, the stairs at the.
Everything. The house will look exactly, I might change the room configuration or something, but it'll look like an old 1850s house when done. As a matter of fact, if anybody's interested, I'd be happy to give people a tour of this house that I'm doing, because I got, this is not the time for this, but I have other places in the town I'm trying to save, basically, so.
So from chemist to this.
Yeah, so, but that's not for this, at this time,
Well, I
but,
appreciate your efforts. That's very good work. And it seems to be a very, sensible compromise for what we're looking to do here.
yeah, every time one of these old houses go down, I just cringe, because they're better built than new houses, I believe.
And then what do you do, market it when it's done? I mean, you can't.
These
live
have
in
all
it.
gone up on my own property. Now, this house up here, that I built, I'd love my daughter to have it, but, I don't know if you have kids or not, but when you suggest stuff like that to them, they kind of go the other way. But I'm going to get it done, and then if she wants it, I'll give it to her for what I got into it. But if not, I'll probably either move there or sell it. I live right down here on the corner. I live in Old Victorian now. The Quaker Meeting House,
It's a beautiful property.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, and all those barns, all that, they were all redone with other old houses that I took apart and used the pieces to do it, so everything was old.
I can't think of, I can't cope to anything at this idea, it seems like.
Okay.
All right, so it sounds like a very elegant solution, and thank you very much for doing this to save it. Does anybody have any other questions?
you have a card contact
You're right.
No, I'm gonna get a card, but
Do we have any public
Have to look.
comments, at this time, on this issue? Does anybody have anything else before we make a motion to vote on our, on the resolution?
And this would also be a very similar last one, additional.
So the freestanding garage, we're okay with losing that.
I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. I'm taking.
Address the comment.
There's some wainscoting and I'm gonna strip off there, but I'm not.
Please excuse me for 1 second. So what conditionals do we have to have on this?
It's gonna be just to address outstanding comments from the engineer and then just to provide the swell. Okay, for this one, similar. to
So
the
similar,
last- Yeah.
Don, does that work for you?
Yes, I'm just trying to get the language for what we're doing
Okay.
here down, so it's gonna take me a few minutes.
Okay.
Chairman, did you want to invite the historic chair to speak?
I thought,
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
Okay, I thought he was here.
No.
Okay.
yeah, it's Mr. Tesh, right?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
and you are?
He's not here.
Park.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Okay,
Okay, so
The comments that we got from the HPC, those were very
Yeah. Oh my
thoughtful
gosh,
and
yeah.
well put together, and we're not just for myself, I'm not disregarding all those comments, but this seems to be a decision, that, it makes both parties happy. So it seems to be a good compromise, but I do want to thank the HPC for their comments. It was very well thought out.
So there's a barn there now. Is that also historic?
the barn has
It's
remained.
part of the same
We restored that.
property, yeah. but that-
Okay.
To remain will be restored.
In the event that Mr. Joe is not able to finish this, how do we work that so that Mr. Parks, who has bent over backwards to try to accommodate the town here, doesn't end up getting,
Yeah, that's
something
my,
happen to him?
I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that, because he would either need, some sort of, special use, or zoning, change or something like that. I'm wondering if we can put in the minutes, a favorable, like, hey, zoning, if this happens, he tried his best, the planning board would like, you to accommodate him or something like that, because it's, as we said, it's expensive and it's onerous, and at the end of the day, it's his property.
The zoning, you mean of a different town?
No, of our town.
Or like intermediate time where there's two primary residences of the property, is what we're referring to.
If
So it
for
doesn't
some
show
reason
as zoning.
the residence remains there. But it only remains there because he tried to accommodate the town. He should not be penalized for accommodating the town. Right?
But he's gonna take that down to get access. I mean, your access goes right through it, right?
Just the garage, not the residence. And I believe
Oh.
they're proposed to relocate the existing residents before this winter, if I recall. So
You were
that's been
saying
done
probably this winter we could get it done.
before the primary structure is completed, so actually it should time out. for
Okay.
We don't want code enforcement coming by or anything like that,
Well,
Sounds like the
Within-
timing works, right?
It does, but to your point, though, there's typically a condition. Once the new residence is completed, you have like 1 year to relocate the existing residents.
Okay.
So there's a contingency component to that.
But you're saying it's gonna be removed during construction.
That's
Okay.
correct.
My concern is what happens if there's an effort to remove the structure and there's a finding that it's not salvageable, or there's a problem with reconstructing it, and we have this as a condition.
So you will be contractually obligated to
I
get the
take
house
it
out.
down, like, if I can't, I'll use it for parts. But it's fine, I already looked at it, it's gonna be fine. I knocked a hole in the wall and tell how good this is.
At a minimum, it'll be removed from the property.
Yeah, it'll be gone.
I mean, do we want to say, board? This is kind of an interesting, it's actually a wonderful. The effort here is great. There's a bunch of different ways we could approach it. One is sort of, make your best effort. Another is bond it in some way so that there's some sort of performance guarantee. Another is just say it's going to be done and leave it at that. And if it doesn't get done, then be left in the place of now what do we do? Any options jumping out at the board?
I think for one thing, there should be certainly something in writing between him and Parks that he's taking the building. He's contractually obligated to take the building. And secondly, the development they were never obligated to leave the house. It was just on the recommendation, right?
Correct.
So I think it's clean and green. And that the board should be pleased that it's going to be repurposed.
I think that's fair. So a contract between these two gentlemen.
I almost think the contract is unnecessary because it's gonna be a condition of their approval.
Okay,
I mean,
you're the lawyer.
but my issue is, what is the condition? That's what I said before, is are we saying it needs to get done, that there needs to be a best effort? Does there need to be a bond? Like, in other words, if we say this is gonna happen and there's a problem and it doesn't happen, and also how are we gonna, we gonna drive down to Sodas and make sure he rebuilt the house?
No,
You know-
once it leaves Mendon, I don't think it's it's not our concern. It is our concern that it is gone.
I
Because
think it would
that
be
is,
wise to have him
it's-
contractually obligated to take the house. Whether he parted out or able to reconstruct it.
But that figure, there.
In my opinion, I think that the owner should be on.
Yeah, but what if you all of a sudden decide not to take it?
Well,
Then he's gonna have to
I
come
could
back
call
here.
architect tomorrow, and I guess I wouldn't take,
Hmm.
probably take it then, but you know.
so what were you saying, sir?
I would propose that the onus is on town as the landowner and applicant, that agreement be done directly, a condition of the approval. That the house is relocated within 1 year of completion of the structure, the new residence. That allows a transitional phase between, with the understanding that we done probably very likely ahead of time, it just gives you some surety about happening.
Tom, does that satisfy?
I have to, yeah, here's my idea. Let me mess with the language a little bit. Have these guys maybe step off and let the next application come up. It's gonna take me a little bit of time to,
Okay.
but I think the general, here's what I see as the idea. So the binding would be the condition. The sort of primary condition will be that the house is not demolished, that it is deconstructed and it is disassembled. And that the materials are provided to somebody with the good faith intent to reconstruct or reuse the materials. And that's kind of the extent of what I think I'm hearing the condition can be. Otherwise, we're gonna have to get into some enforcement stuff.
No, I don't want to do that
Yeah.
at all. I would like at least some piece of this where if it doesn't go, that we have on the record that Mr. Parks gave his best effort to do what we asked him to do, and because of circumstances beyond his control, he wasn't. And construction of his house should not be stopped or messed with because he couldn't move the house, and now there are 2 residences. Like,
I don't know that we have the authority to, I think the minutes are gonna reflect
that's what
what
I
I'm
was
saying.
saying,
here.
that's all I'm asking,
Yeah.
so that when he does go through, if he has to go to zoning or something like that, he's got us saying, hey, he tried his best. And couldn't do it, because you've been more than helpful, with all of this, so. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll let Mr. Young type up a little bit, and we'll go on to our next, item of business. Sorry to keep you waiting, I really apologize for that. Okay, our next order of business is Mendon Heights, the 17 lot subdivision sketch. That'll be Mr. Costanza. Please, come on up. And then for full disclosure, I've known Mr. Drew Costanza for quite some time. He's an old family friend. We will not be voting tonight, so I will not have to recuse or anything of that nature, I don't think. So, all right, we had some questions, I believe. And also we had an ECB visit with Mr. Carosa. I don't know if Mr. Carosa would like to approach. He's our chair of our Environmental Conservation Board. And maybe if you'd like, sir, you can walk us through some of the issues or non-issues that as you see them.
Yeah, so we submitted a report to the planning board last week. And just wanted to give a verbal version to kind of just hone in on some of the key concerns. There's 2, I'll say, substantial concerns at this point with ECB, and I think we've done our best to kind of make some recommendations and identify a path forward at this point. Obviously up to the planning board, town engineering, code enforcement, figure out how you want to move forward. But the first thing being proposed development within EPOD 2. So quick background, there's 2 shading colors, I'll say, on the EPOD 2 map. There's a lighter shading color and a dark shading color. The darker shade indicates predominantly steep slopes. That's gonna be anything greater than 30%. There is proposed development within this EPOD. If you refer to the zoning code, or rather, actually not the zoning code, but the town code, that holds the requirements for EPOD permits. The town can authorize an EPOD permit for development within EPOD number 2. If the slopes are between 15 and 30%, but anything beyond 30%, an EPOD permit cannot be granted. Meaning that if there's any proposed development per their layout, the town cannot accommodate that within those slopes greater than 30%. I don't know personally offhand what the source material was for the delineation of the EPOD. The code does allow for code enforcement and town engineer to use a multitude of sources to determine the exact delineation of that EPOD, where the slopes are specifically greater than 30%. So the ECB's recommendation was, given it's our understanding that a licensed surveyor did a full field survey of the property, to request the applicant to, using that field survey, remap where the slopes are greater than 30%. And then that it would be the redelineated EPOD number 2. And then they could revise the proposed subdivision and layout as necessary, avoiding those areas that are explicitly 30% or more. The other concern was with EPOD number 7 woodlot. There has been a tree survey conducted. Cursory review by the ECB suggests it may not meet all of the requirements per the EPOD chapter. In the town code, there may be some follow-up questions or a little bit more extra work necessary to meet the standard listed. However, at this time, ECB feels that given the stage in which the design is at, it's hard for the ECB to fully assess the impacts of this project, given it's just a sketch layout. There are some things that, given it's a sketch layout, haven't necessarily been determined, whether it's where utilities are gonna go, stormwater, just a full gamut of potential impacts to trees. So we would recommend that no consideration is really given to that EPOD permit at this time, although it will be required. But a full assessment can't be completed until the design gets to the level it needs to get to figure out what the full impacts would be. And that's really the major 2 things. The ECB did do a brief site walk. We got rained out, or rather thunderstormed out from our site walk, but from what we've seen, I think that an EPOD permit for the woodlot areas could certainly be something that we can see granted in the future. So that's it. I don't know if there was any questions from any of the board members regarding our report. I'll just add that as this project progresses forward into later stages of design and approvals, the ECB would likely want to conduct another site walk just to confirm conditions a little bit better out there.
Do you have a percentage of the steep slopes at this time?
Percentage of what?
Of the steep slope areas
Of what are accurate? Or
of the whole project?
I don't know what the area is offhand, but I know that 6 residences, 6 building outlines specifically, are either partially or fully encroaching that EPOD. And there's another property that has other features, driveway, septic area, that are encroaching as well. So again, our recommendation would be confirming that delineation of where those 30% slopes really are, based on the survey that was completed by a licensed surveyor.
Add comments.
Yes, one moment, please. Does the board have any other questions for Mr. Grosso? Yes, go ahead, sir.
So, I mean, we looked at the steep slope EPODs and then the grading that was done by the licensed surveyor. The licensed surveyor is grading 1-foot increments, so it's pretty accurate for the site. The current plan that we had there, that all of you have, there are 2 locations where there's drives that go across a steep slope that is like 32%, greater than 30%. And one of those can easily be this change by moving the driveway in one of the lots over 50 feet. The other one is really, kind of at like the main entrance for, 3 different residences of the road, the main driveway off the cul-de-sac. So in order to avoid that, if we can't, go on and build part of the road on a 32% slope, then we would just move the road around the side of the property, go along the south property line for a portion of it in order to avoid it. This is kind of how it would look like without having to go through that 30% slope area on the road. And, we looked at doing that earlier, in the design, and one thing that I didn't like about that, which I don't like in general, is the neighboring property has a driveway that goes along the edge of their property, all the way up past this property up the hill. So then at that point, we have 2 roads that are right next to each other. To me, this means that like we failed as a society, where you have all this asphalt, and, it'd be better if we just share the one road, we improve it and then kind of tap off of that, but that's not how things work. It's his private drive, we can't use it. So we'll have another private drive right next to it. That's something that we wanted to avoid, but if it's not avoidable because we have to miss the 30% steep slope, then we can move that road around. Overall with the work that's being done, I mean, we have, the current plan has less linear feet of road than if we were to avoid the steep slope at 30%. The difference is 1,700 linear feet of road versus 2,500 linear feet of road. So we'd add more road, cut more trees, but we can avoid that 30% steep slope pass. Overall with this property, we want to, build structures that are, friendly to the environment. We want to have a neighborhood that can have sustainable homes that are, within a neighborhood and community. A lot of our clients are looking for building a sustainable home when they can build a single house on a 5 or 10 acre lot that's isolated off some highway, or they have to buy a standard crack home from one of the developers with asphalt roofs and vinyl siding and vinyl windows. So they kind of have to choose between what they want to do. And this is really what a lot of people have asked for, is having a sustainably minded community where there is mature trees in the property. We obviously don't want to cut down mature trees that are valuable to the property. A lot like the Turning Stone neighborhood that's in Pittsburgh that was built maybe like 15 years ago. It was a farm field. They cut whatever was left. They built all these little vinyl sided houses, and then they stuck little trees in like one tree in each front yard. That doesn't have the same feel as having, going buying a house lot that has a 80-year-old mature oak on it, or a silver maple or something. So, trees like that, we've actually shifted some of our design of the footprint of the houses, so that way they wouldn't be able to retain the decent trees that we have on the site. Most of these trees that are on site are trees that my father and my brother planted. So back in 1999, I think it was, or maybe just 1998, after my father bought the property, he entered into a USDA agricultural program. We got 1,500 or 2,500 trees, I forget which, they planted. But there was my brother and his college friend and my father. They planted trees for a month. So now a lot of these trees that are the black locust one, which is the species that they planted, they're now 25 years old. Their diameter is more than 6 inches at breast height. Now they are protected and we can't cut them. So, we don't really, we're kind of shocked that we have to, do tree surveys and do all this stuff in order to get permission to cut the trees that we planted. But I understand that you want to have, retain the natural environment, and that's really what this development is planning to do. We want to retain as many trees as possible. We want to retain groups of trees and natural landscape. The idea is not to clear cut and get everyone a 1 acre lawn. We want the lawns to be smaller, so like the grass mowed area, an area that someone might put pesticides on, is big enough for a yard game for kids to play. We don't want to have, riding lawnmowers, 4 or 5 days a week, come to the neighborhood and just with blowers and everything else. The clients that would buy these houses, they don't want that stuff. They want a small grass area that's mowed. They want a meadow transition to a forested, backdrop. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here. We're getting a lot of resistance with the trees being, something that is being hung up on. The other EPOD, that are on the site, we don't really see that being a detriment, and all that. Feel that all of that can be accommodated for in the zoning code and the town code. The steep slope, like I said, we can avoid the one section that is more than 30% by moving the road and adding some linear feet of road. There was a comment that the conservation board made about not having some pine soil EPOD shown on the north part of the property. It's a very small area. I don't know that I don't know that it even hits the road. I'm not sure how that soil EPOD even came about. All of this property here is all, very, quick draining, gravel soil. There's a gravel pit right next door to the property to the south. And, the area that is shown as being, pine soils, it's almost like a 30% slope. It's basically in the road and the plateau up on where the houses would start. That's the area that's shown on the soils EPOD. So I'm not even sure that that's an accurate, just like the steep slope EPOD, the way that is shown on the maps. Not accurate. And we discussed this a little bit when we were on site with Peter, but we got rained out to actually walk in those locations. But the location where the EPOD is, and if you look at the topography, with the 1 foot increments, you can tell that the steep slope delineation that you have on your map is not accurate to what was actually measured with from the surveyor. So that needs to be adjusted a little bit, and I understand that it would be clear for you to see what is actually where the steep slope is, because you're looking at a map that is incorrect or a delineation that is incorrect. The topography is correct. So if you're able to look at the topography, you can see for a 30% slope, I think that's 3 or 4 feet of rise over 10 feet. Or I guess 3 feet of rise over 10 feet. So there are areas that are at 30%. But again, we're not building there except for that one area where the road had been proposed to pass through.
Mr. Crosa, if there is a discrepancy in the EPOD, how do we reconcile that? Like if you go on a site visit, you're like, this is clearly not a soil susceptible to ponding. How does that work?
I can help you with that.
Oh, please.
The code enforcement officer has the determination on the boundaries. Do you sense that there is some discrepancies, or you're not sure at this point, or?
I would think, and again, I don't know the source, steep slope, and not specific to this property, but other applications we've reviewed in the past, we've seen minor discrepancies, but again, given the no impact, or, we haven't gone down that road, but I definitely think in this particular instance, I would think, again, per the code between code enforcement and town engineer, they're the two parties responsible for the actual delineation. The maps in the back there are just, they're the official maps, and then they can be adjusted as necessary for the code. So yeah, I would say that there have been some instances of, for example, we looked at a property years ago that had woodlot. We were able to scan satellite imagery all the way back to the 1930s and determine there was never trees in that particular location. So there was no trees to cut down, therefore, how could they even get an EPOD permit for tree cutting when there's no trees there for the development that was proposed within that EPOD? So
Would that also apply to them because the trees are new there, or how does that work?
I guess I would defer that question to the code enforcement and or town engineer as to what the standard is for the EPOD setback.
Thank you. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, just for all of your knowledge, just looking at where the steep slope permit is, they got on the north of the property, this big area, road property. This is an agricultural farm field. It's not steep slope. This area right here, where this is the steep slope line that kind of goes through here, and there's not steep slope here and not steep slope here. This is all the same grade going across here, your road. So really, there might be a steep slope down here, in the ravine, and a steep slope maybe up here, but it doesn't, these lines are just not correct. But if you look at the topography, then you kind of get a gauge for where they are. As far as, what you want to do with a sketch plan, right, we wanted to, make sure that we're on the same page, that, that we're in agreement that, yes, in order to do a nice development here, we have to cut down, trees that are in the woodland. We have to have a forester go through and mark out, the trees and what the species are, where they are, and the group together and all that. And shifted a couple houses around based on saving some, one of a few large oak trees or something that is there that was something worth saving. A lot of these trees, when you walk through there, and I wanted to show Peter and the board this, but we didn't have a chance to. A lot of the trees that are on the survey map, 1,500, 1,200 trees that were in the ECOD there. A lot of those are growing so close together where the trunks are all together in one tree, then like this, the other one is going crossways, all the branches are across each other. We're growing into each other, the broken, sections. If you were to trim some trees around them and then leave a tree that was there, you'd have half of a tree like it's next to a power line because it didn't grow on this side, but it had sunlight on this side. So it's not like it's a beautiful hemlock forest or old growth, oaks and maples. It really, if you're there and you look at it, I feel like you shouldn't be arguing about whether we need to save these trees or not.
Your point's taken there.
So, the goal is just to see, how the board gauges this development. We don't want to move forward our next. We want to do the sketch plan in order to kind of see how you feel about the tree removals, because in order to get to the next, preliminary site plan review, we have to do perk tests. We have to get a lot more, information on where stormwater management and drainage will be during construction. I know one of the comments that someone made was, where is stormwater, on the property now for the lots. In our write-up, we did say that we wanted to have rain gardens or bioswales going into rain gardens on the individual lots. That way, the stormwater that is coming from impermeable surfaces like a roof or a driveway, Joe, be retained on site. Another thing too, I wanted to show to the conservation board that we didn't get to is that in the ravine that goes to the property, which is like this, where the steepest slopes are. Even after like a heavy rain, go there and look at the grounds, and there's no evidence of, water runoff. Like it's not a running stream. There's not enough tributary area. There's not enough water that goes through there. You'll just see leaves and pine needles from the past, couple of years. You're not going to see like, pieces of shale or rock, some sort of stream bed that's just dried up. Like it doesn't exist in this area where the steepest slopes are. Because it was a ravine, and at some point in the past, the ravine was filled in. There was a road that went across the field here. There is like an area that then like ponds down on the other side of that road. It's on the neighboring property, and someone looked down at that, and I've never seen standing water in there, so I'm not sure if it was. I think if the soil had a lot of gravel in it, things work really quickly, almost too quickly. Some of the leach beds might need to have quartered fill because it does perk very quickly. So I think that's what's happening, but there's not running water that's whether soil, ocean, or there's dry creek bed here. That's something that too, again, you can look outside. I also have to there's pictures of what the property looked like in the past, and it was. And I think this was taken maybe like around the time my father bought it. So this is basically the satellite image from 1999 or so.
That was right before you planted the trees.
Yeah. So this shows where the trees are on this property is basically in that one ravine down the center, and then the trees that are in this area right here. That's really on the neighbors' properties. They cut those down and built trees. I mean, they built houses since then. So there's still more houses in this area at this point. But it was, that's kind of what these fields look like. The tree lines that you see in the background are the adjacent properties. So, again, this 40 acres is basically 2 fields on either side, that was cleared. The one house that's on the road, they sold this horse-shaped lot or horseshoe-shaped lot. And then the next person who bought that, he sold the 2 lots behind them. So there's 3 houses in the center of the horseshoe. And it was originally owned by one person, all of it. They sold off the horseshoe shape, kept the middle portion. And then the person who then bought that house then subdivided and sold off the other 2 houses. So, the reason why it's a horseshoe shaped lot, is basically comes directly from the owner who owned the houses that are now most affected by a development here.
Have they had anything to say about this?
No, I mean,
Not that I know
I think Drew has a good relationship with him, and
of. Are you planning on resuming your walk around? At the property?
At some point, yes, I guess it depends on the direction of the planning board and what decisions are made and directions given to the applicant. If you want us to go back out in the coming weeks to do a better assessment with better weather, we'd certainly be open to do so.
Well, I think that all depends on these gentlemen here, but earlier tonight you did say that the trees, the possibility exists that they could cut down the necessary trees for this, dependent upon certain other considerations. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say that the feeling of the ECB was when we reviewed this, both in the field and then as a group, was that we were certainly amenable to the idea of a woodlot EPOD being obtained by the applicant to do some development on the property. But again, more so, we can't do our full review and determine the full impact given the stage of design that we're at right now.
Fair enough. Does that make sense to you, gentlemen?
I think, I mean, this is a picture, this is another comment, steep slope pods and all that. So this is a picture of what the property looked like back in 1998 or 1999. That is the picture from the road, Route 64, looking at the property. See, there's a couple trees here and a couple trees here. Now, if you're at the road and you look up there, you can't even see through there. This is all trees, most of them are locusts. My father planted them. So all this area is all grown up with locusts now. And then this area on the topography map is also in a steep slope pod. So, even just to get access to the property up the 64 is going to go through a steep slope.
How much steep slope is up in this upper section here?
It's really just the ravine. So there's the ravine that, the stream ravine used to kind of come down here. And then this area right here was filled in sometime in the past. So there's, like a much more tractor or farm or what, but it's all filled in. It's probably like 20 feet, 30 feet wide. And, so then basically right here is kind of an area that's steep. And then over here, what's interesting is that this guy, the farmer on this field, he kind of I assume graded it, leveled it downhill. So from the edge of the property here, that there's actually like a berm that goes down 10, 12 feet in order to get down to the neighboring property. So it looks like it's been graded out over the years where it took out all the rocks and all the tree roots and everything else, and it just dropped it. So there is a steep slope on the, on the property line basically to the north. And then, the other, and then I guess steep slope, I think a steep slope is like a 30% number. That's steep when you're walking and that kind of stuff. But, the steep slope for more than 15%, that would expand beyond that ravine and then the north property line. And then the other steep slope area where 30% is basically at Route 64 going up to the property. So that's where this picture is right here. This is basically steep slope more than 30%. So that's what that 30% looks like. So going forward, there's the cost of getting the design and the development to the preliminary site plan review stage. That cost is $20,000, $30,000. So, we don't want to obviously do that if it's, cutting the trees, it's just a no-go. We don't want to be able to know that we're able to, that's not as that's going to hang us up, because we can deal with the steep slope. 30%, we can arrange for that. The climbing soils, I don't think is an issue. I think there's one other EPOD too on this site. Jason, you know what that is?
Yeah, that's the EPOD number one, I believe, water course. There's a delineated stream that just runs to the north of the property. So there's a 100-foot buffer that comes off that stream. And again, it was more, not so much of a concern as just keeping in your mind that any sort of development, whether that's clearing of vegetation, earthwork operations within that 100-foot buffer would require an EPOD permit. So you're right on the edge, again, the scale of the drawing and what actually gets done, I'll say in the field during construction, you can probably avoid that 100-foot buffer by keeping everything inside.
Yeah, that's one of those ones too, where I don't agree with the EPOD delineation. Like on this section here, it kind of runs through and, along here.
EPOD 3,
EPOD 3, yes. And, like where we had this house here that's within 100 feet of the EPOD, or in the corner of it. The area is the part where the land really slopes down is on the neighboring property to the north. So if there was a stream that was coming from, on the property to the north, it wouldn't go up 10 feet, to get onto this property, the nice property. So that's probably another one to look at, but I think that's minor too, because dry stream, 100-foot buffer is a decent amount, the lots are large. So for, I guess the next steps is there, how do we get to the point where we feel justified in, spending significant money on percolation tests and stormwater management plan and all that kind of stuff?
you think it makes sense to request the ECB to complete their,
Well, the EC, I mean, if I may, the code enforcement officer, the ECB and the engineer all found that even the sketch application was incomplete. So even the preliminary to the preliminary application was incomplete. Thereby presumably inhibiting them from giving their full sort of statement on the proposal. And they listed a bunch of different things throughout those commentary letters. From a process standpoint that you asked, typically with a completed sketch plan, the planning board would provide some sort of, I think it's written response. Let me just see here. Oh, yeah. But because it's incomplete, I don't really think we're at that stage, technically.
We could give feedback though, right? Because they're
I think you
here.
could talk generally, it's gonna be non-binding, but you can give your impressions.
So I think you've done a great job of carving out the areas that you need for your building sites, and you've been very selective about what you're taking. Also, your graphics are pretty good. I mean, we can clearly see what you're taking from the site, and you're not clear cutting. You're really trying to weed your way through this and work with the trees you have on site. And the fact that you planted those trees and had the foresight to do that, I think we should thank you for that, because you've improved the site by doing it. As far as the steep slope goes, I think we've, in the past, and there might be something in our town code. I have to double check. They would, I think, take precedence over that. I think I might have read that, but don't quote me on that. But logic would tell you that, of course, topography would trump the graphic representation. And it would, so if the lines that you're showing here are based on our maps, is that what it is, or is it based on your? All right, so one thing I'd be interested in is seeing, we could still show this line based on our map. And maybe show a different line type or a different color line that shows the actual surveyed area of where this actual steep slopes are, because that will allow us to really make the determination. Because it's a shame to have to weave a convoluted roadway, to try to avoid a slope that might not even be there. And like you said, having two passageways parallel to each other is undesirable, and you wouldn't want that. So what you are originally proposing is a much better design. So I guess one of my comments was if we could really delineate the actual, like 30% slopes where you can't get a permit for, that would be helpful for us to see. And as far as the trees go, I think you've done a lot of work mapping them, showing us which ones you're cutting down. And like I said, carving away where you're building. So I'm satisfied with what you're doing, as far as the tree, the woodlot. And Mike,
You may want to check with the county. They may have LiDAR prior to you planting trees that you're going to show you the whole topo of the project.
I have found topography of this product that was done, from USGS surveys. The county website did not have any. I used the USGS one because one of the requests from the building code officer was to extend our, topography map to 200 feet around the perimeter of the property. So I used the USGS mapping for that. But I didn't find anything on the county, on their LiDAR and their other survey maps. So maybe there's something I missed, or if there's an location, specifically if there's a certain web link or keyword to type in to find those.
I don't know what you did, so I can't.
If I may jump in on this, so the county does have LiDAR data available, not publicly available, so it's available, I believe, upon request. I don't know if it's free or if there's a cost associated with it. The state, however, also has a clearinghouse of LiDAR data. You can go to an interactive map, select the area where you want specifically to download LiDAR data that's selectable from whatever timeframes they have.
Is that different? Does that give different information than the surveyor? Topography?
In terms of what? So the LiDAR you're gonna be downloading is probably gonna be, I would say, 1 foot contours, and it's gonna come in as like I think it's usually like a TIFF file, so it's gonna be, you're gonna have to convert it. Potentially into a usable format for yourself, but
I wonder if that's what the surveyors are using, because is a topography of that 1 foot intervals.
I mean, I would think that a land surveyor would have gone out and picked up hard points, although, with today's technology, they could have done like a flown survey, mobile mapper, pick up LiDAR with a drone, all that's possible.
With all the trees, he's not going to be able to use his GPS. The satellites don't give you any elevation. He's going to have to do all physically.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they did the topography map. I know that it is 1 foot intervals, so.
But I'm sure it's out there. You just gotta find the right keywords or the right person to get it.
And then you're a lawyer, right? One of the questions I have for you, I guess, is on the engineering review of the drawings. I wasn't quite sure on some of the things I wanted to verify we had the stuff that's needed, but he had on there that if we didn't have a bunch of things on our plan that he wanted to see. And I was kind of confused on that, and be looking at the right plans or not, but.
our engineer is also there.
Yeah, I didn't write the engineering review.
So, it says like, I don't know, like, we need to show, I don't know, what was it? Location, house location, show, work arrow, show, track boundaries, or show, topographic survey, contours with the, statement of proposed water supply and sewage, which we show, and show that, the septic locations.
I have an idea.
I'm not sure if that was done.
I did, that was written by the engineer. So my idea is, if you're comfortable with it, we could bring the parks back up, finish them off. If you want to run through his questions, or if you want to take it at another time, I don't know what's better, but Earl had just suggested that he doesn't know how much longer this will go on before we get the parks back to us. So up to you, Chairman.
Okay,
Gentleman behind you.
sure. If you don't mind, Jess, we're gonna have them cook real quick and finish that piece, and then we will come back to the Murphy report. Okay, thank you. Thanks. All right, Ms. Parks.
Sorry.
I started to drop your photos.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, what do we have?
All right,
here?
so I've modified the resolution pretty substantially because it's a big difference. For the third paragraph, it now reads as follows, whereas EPOD 5 is present on the property and as such, the application has been forwarded to the HPC, which in some raised concern with the proposal to demolish the existing residential building on the property and recommended saving/restoring/reusing the home or some other mitigation. And now I added this paragraph, whereas the applicant has offered, instead of demolishing the existing historic residential structure, that the same would be disassembled and not demolished, and that a good faith effort would be made to either reconstruct the structure elsewhere or otherwise reuse the materials thereof for construction of a structure. This is the mitigation plan. Then I've added a resolved for the EPOD permit, which says this: resolve that an EPOD permit for development in said EPOD 5 is hereby issued for the development as depicted on the relevant plans, as the proposed development would not significantly adversely affect the historic character of the listed site or structure, given that the development within EPOD 5 generally comprises access driveways and not structures. The existing historic barn in the area will remain. The existing residential structure on the property is not listed locally or on the state register, but the mitigation plan will nonetheless be a condition of approval. The proposed barn-like appearance of the proposed new structure is acceptable to the HPC, and the New York State SHPO concluded by letter that there will be no relevant impacts as it relates to the application. And then I added a sixth condition that the mitigation plan, which you defined earlier, would be complied with.
Okay. Anybody have any issues with that?
Yes. I've always felt that the term good faith effort was kind of wishy-washy.
I think it's a legal term of art, no?
It protects us a little bit.
It is wishy-washy, at least because, yes, it does leave room for error, but you have, I guess I'm not sure what a better way to say it is if we're not going to put a hard imposition on it.
Okay, do we have any comments from the audience at this time on this? Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion? Yes.
For the written resolution as
Correct.
amended.
As
Yeah.
Mr. Young has read out to us. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to let the record also reflect that Mr. Parks has really tried hard to comply with the town, and I hope that everything goes okay moving forward. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. Yep.
We're ready whenever you are, sir. Thank you for the musical chairs. We appreciate that.
So the other question we had on the MRB report was, it was asking for a full environmental assessment form. And it mentioned in New York State in CRR 617.4 that Mendon is a municipality of less than 150,000 people, and the construction of more than 10 residential units. So the way I understand the code is that the long form is required if 10 units in municipalities that have not adopted the zoning code, which you have, or towns that are, or villages with a population of 150,000 people or less when 200 units are being constructed. So it seems like those two different triggers for the long form were conflated to make it into one. And I don't think that we need the long form. Maybe you can verify that before we do it when it's not needed.
It's a fair question.
Yep, we can look into whether a long form or a short form is needed.
Yeah, I mean, the section of code that was cited, it says that one of these things would trigger it, but not. Basically two different triggers were basically combined into one, so. That's just so. Yeah, I mean, that's the only question, but I know, but again, the MRB report, said that we were missing a bunch of things like house locations and, approximate outlines of streets and lot boundaries, and we have all that. You know, we understand that we're missing percolation tests, stormwater drainage, because we haven't got that phase of design, just some other expensive portion.
Mr. Kramer, can you opine on these things?
Yeah, so
please?
that's just directly from the sketch layout specifications. I just kind of want that from the code and say like, hey, you know, as part of a sketch plan, these are the items that we're looking for. It doesn't say that these are all.
I think the confusion is coming because it says missing incomplete at the top of the
Missing
title.
or are,
Okay,
right? And just, I mean, I think the drawings are, yes, it appears there's some scale, you know, I think there are just some items from a typical like site plan. Perspective that are missing, I think additionally too, there was a section about, you know. Theoretical lot density, and just some more bulk regulations and whatnot to really give us some items to be able to discuss like. What the intent is here, and I guess I just want to say like I do like the intent of this project. I just want to see the engineering side of things more fleshed out.
I think
that's
a couple of years ago when we were at the board, we did have, ESS was doing they did a preliminary, site plan review. They did have a plan that showed, you know, what the maximum lot density was of 36 lots or something like
Yeah,
that.
so
So we had that information. We didn't kind of include it here because that was kind of shut down based on, you know, you can't cut trees. So we wanted to make sure that we're good with the tree, we kind of get back into that, but again, I understand that you're.
yeah, and that's really my biggest thing. I think that was also the conservation board's biggest thing, right? Is, you know, let's get a site plan flushed out that, you know, meets all of the town standards for design and, you know, for the subdivision requirements. And then we can really look into, you know, how we're gonna affect this EPOD setting, if any, right? Especially, you know, just looking at this from a tabletop review, like I'm not seeing immediate stormwater features and things of that nature. So again, just looking for some more at least preliminary engineering items flushed out. I saw I looked back at the application before, it looks like you're doing private wells for water, and beach fields for septic. So I, you know, obviously like doing those due diligence items up front and using that to kind of come with a comprehensive plan is gonna help me as well as the rest of the board in making decisions on, you know, how they want to proceed.
And also just, in case the board didn't get the memo, but the purpose of this was to discuss the trees, so we didn't include like our plan that shows, you know, maximum lots that we made.
Right.
And where wells were built at 100 POA successfully. That was really what.
That's your intent, but the mechanism for you to get here was a sketch plan application.
Right.
And formally, as the engineer is telling you, the sketch plan application is incomplete. That's why he put that memo out.
so is it fair to say then that the trees, which is their current showstopper, might not be such a showstopper then? Is that? If the possibility exists?
I think they've addressed the issue with the trees, in my opinion, I would be okay with it as shown.
My concern is the steep slopes and the proximity of the homes and the septic system relative to those, not knowing where they are. You could say that here and there, but without a defined location. I will see if I can get a.
So, yeah, I mean, if you can, that'd be great, but with the homes, like the home footprints that we have shown on there, we haven't designed the homes. So
I know you can move them
would be a
all
better
over,
way
right?
to show that. Is there something else that we're going to see like on a preliminary, you know, design like this would?
5 lots on a private road. What are you allowed for?
Yeah, that was, DSS talked about doing a cluster development there. I think that we're gonna get rid of that, either we'll combine 2 of those lots before there, or, you know, find another way, but yeah, we're not gonna go into the cluster development process. So, we're gonna get that.
So are these all gonna share the same main access? Like some of these houses, are they gonna share the main access roads to get to, like, is there gonna be some kind of shared agreement?
Well, there's 12 houses that are off of one with curb cut off of 64. And then the dedicated road with 8 houses on it, and then the other houses that are off of that, they call the sack. And then on the north side of the property, there's the 5 properties that are off the private drive.
Right.
So,
So I guess what mechanism is gonna be established for the maintenance of that?
it'll be like an HOA or even whatever the standard is for the shared properties. I'm not sure what the deal. But
Yeah, I
it
think,
would be, and typically, I think the way ESS does it is that each property has its own separate utility strip. So there'll be multiple strips that have to have easement, adjacent to the driveway, shared driveway.
okay,
And you got the standard of how they do like flag lots or multiple properties off of a shared private drive.
right, because they all need access to the public right of way. I guess, the other thing I would mention as well, go talk to the director of public works about the dedicated road. Just because that's gonna be dedicated to the town, so they're gonna have to upkeep that, it's gonna have to adhere to their design standards. Requirements, if it is gonna be a publicly dedicated road, so that's just something to consider.
Is that something that we refer to superintendent, or is it something that they have to do?
I mean, I think they would have to do it, right? If they're gonna dedicate this road to the town and then it then becomes.
There's a dedication process.
Right.
That
Okay.
the town would have to actually formally accept it, so they're gonna have to meet design standards and probably some sort of inspections as it's built and bore holes and all that stuff, which you guys are probably familiar
Right,
with.
like
but-
it would have to follow town's details,
Yeah.
the cul-de-sac would have to be per the town. Just some of those things to consider, like as, the engineer goes like for design.
Yeah, we had it with that, all the standard state DOT details for that kind of stuff. When we were looking at this originally, we thought, hey, it'd be great to do a U-shaped road. And then have houses off, that double loaded off both sides. And that opportunity kind of disappeared when the person that sold off, that owned the middle house here and kept this center section. When they sold off the multiple lots behind them inside of the U, then people built there, then we kind of lost the opportunity to do that. So then doing the U-shaped road, that was dedicated road, became like a $3.5–4 million road.
Right.
For 17 lots, and it doesn't make sense financially. So, like the road that's there is, what we call this at, $1 million. So again, we didn't want to, we wanted to find a way that the property could be developed sustainably, then also to have it be as affordable as possible.
And you're gonna wanna I think you need to make sure before you're back here that you talk with the code enforcement officer about properly establishing the EPOD limits that you believe to be inaccurate, and make sure, because he's gonna have the final say on that. So whatever he needs to be convinced that they're accurate, you're gonna wanna make sure that's done. You're gonna wanna make sure that the roads, the access ways are all compliant with the fire code, fire apparatus stuff and all that kind of stuff, which he should be familiar with as well.
Do you have an engineer yet?
Yes, PBS.
They will know your water thing, and this long road up through here, that private drive's gotta have a turn up on it, it's gotta be wide enough for 2 vehicles.
Yeah, I see that the lot lines are, that each lot does have its own access to the cul-de-sac. There's like the dash lines and little strips that go up and over. So that part was done, and you had the turn off space, that's like emergency.
There is
turn
public
off.
water there, isn't it?
There's
Yeah, I was
what?
gonna-
Public
is there
water there?
public water?
No,
There isn't.
unless it is new.
You might want to check with Monroe County, because they may have public water. I will say that if there is public water, if you are gonna dedicate this to the town of Mendon, they would likely provide water on the dedicated road. However, they won't do public water on the private lots. They're not super thrilled about that idea. So that's just something to keep in consideration.
Yeah, I mean, in 2023, there was no sewer or private water or natural gas on that section of road. Try to make things a lot easier if it was, but
Right.
Does anybody have any other questions? Do you gentlemen think that you have a a good path forward? Do you know, what we need to do next?
Yeah, I think, man, I think, I think we have a plan for what to do, and but I think, if DDS, talk to them as well, and see what, stuff, whether it makes sense to go back to sketch or just go to preliminary site. Like, the preliminary site plan would be the thing to do. Whether the board members kind of understand the project better, what we're trying to do, and we really get the tree surveys and all those trees marked out and took a look at the individual trees that were cut. Doesn't seem like we're cutting anything that is valuable resource.
One other thing I'll mention, just because you said you may not cluster anymore, I don't know if those lots were looked at for compliance with zoning, like minimum lot size, width, depth, that all setbacks and all that stuff, or if that was just not really analyzed because it was proposed as a cluster.
They were, and they are compliant with the zoning code for the lots. I think it's like 3/4 acre minimum in the R1. I think when my father first bought this, it's a 5 acre minimum lot size. So back in like 2020 or 2000, and then I think 2018 or so, or 2020, it changed.
Okay, I just want to make sure there was no surprise on that down the road. Sorry to interrupt.
Anybody have anything else? Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay, we have one more order of business. I did not do my chair report at the beginning of the meeting. Sorry about that. I did not take any admin actions between any meetings, so nothing to report there. And now, we're gonna open it up for, public comment. Does anybody, from the audience have anything they'd like to say?
I'm not sure, like, I'm just commenting on this. Like, I have the property that's up on the hill up there,
Yes, sir.
and, so it's right behind this, so I'm kind of like due east of that development. And so, I hear all the discussions about this environmentally sound and all that stuff, but to me, it looks like we're putting a trailer park in there. So, I'm not exactly thrilled about the whole design of this thing. It looks like it's very small lots and a lot of houses going into a small piece. So I just want to kind of voice that. And then on the discussion of, so I have that driveway that's right next to it. So there's never been any discussion or outreach to me about, maybe sharing a driveway or making it easier to do something like that. There's never been any discussions about that. So, just, it's disappointing to see that thing going down right now.
Thank
To
you,
me.
sir. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's it.
Oh, thank you, sir. One last thing, we'd like to thank our colleagues at ECB. Thank you, Chairman Carosa. Really appreciate all your time. And that's it. Okay. Do I have a motion to?
No.
Oh, we don't. Did you have something, sir?
I had met with the village officials on Wednesday of last week. He assured that he would get me a set of plans complete for Copperfield, which I had.
All right.
Actually, kind of glad you brought that up.
Okay.
That's it. There are many issues on this plan. We can start with Quaker Meeting House Road. Quaker Meeting House Road, and putting primarily most of the discharge onto Quaker Meeting. My suggestion was to widen the road for the turning lane and widen the road for the southbound traffic. When you look here, they have on Fair Lawn, they have an entry there. They have one at Hyde Park. Then a truck will never make the turn, coming from the south on down. And they have another entrance way from Wolfsburger Park.
So yeah, Quaker Meeting House is gonna be the main exit in entrance.
My question is, does MRV work in conjunction with the village
Of Honey Falls.
for Hunting Falls?
Yes, we do have an engineer who will be reviewing
We,
this.
we have no one in authority right now in the town of Mendon can authorize you receiving this plans and make a comment on it. So what I'm saying is if you take, if you take those plans back there try to get somebody from the authority with the town to do it unless you can just do it and bill the developer. I don't know whether you've been involved with them or else.
I have not been involved in the village, in their review. And I do believe that there may be one. However, if you want me to review this, like the draft, I can for items that.
The only real plan to review is our tie-in to
Right,
Quaker Meeting House Road. All the rest of it is village. The sewer is all village, whether it's substantial. I've looked at all the flow rates and everything they had so far. But I don't think it's gonna work, but
it's a large development.
it's a very large, this size development. It's gonna take years.
Yep.
And who knows what the economy is going to be over that time frame. And I tried to work through the formulation of monies to do this project, the inflation cost, after all these letters of credit, how the money's passed on. Are the guarantees that the suppliers are paid? What have they done? And they've done some of it, but they haven't completed it. But I'm overstepping who I am at the village. But if you've been working with the village on occasion, you can do the suggestions of whatever you think is necessary, because I did not see any traffic studies on Quaker Meeting House Road, Town Road.
So I just got a copy of these.
Earl, I'm a little unclear as to what you're suggesting here. We're at the planning board. You are a planning board member. MRB is here on behalf of the town of Mendon Planning Board.
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone else understand what's being asked here? Yes?
I understand.
Is it that there's no, real traffic study where it connects, where it abuts the
Okay,
town road?
Quaker Meeting House Road.
So how does the line fall on that road? Is it basically one half of the road is for the town of Mendon, the other is for the village?
Earl, I don't know that the planning board has any authority over this.
No, we have
application,
no
so-
authority except we can advise or question the entranceway on a Quaker Meeting House
The
Road.
planning board can?
I think so.
Well, we can, I think
Down
what he's
road.
saying is we can advise on how Quaker Meeting House might be used, because there is runoff issues, there might be a traffic light, there's a lot of cars coming in and out of that, so there is an interest to the town here for
There
sure.
certainly is an interest.
Yeah,
The mayor asked me to complete whatever I thought. It got it back to both the mayor and Dave Ford.
Have you coordinated with the town board at all?
Who was there on vacation.
I mean, the Mendon Town Board.
Mr. Lotti's in Italy. Mo Bickweight's in Quebec.
Do we know, that's still under review, correct? In the
It's still
village?
under review.
We just,
If we were asked to submit.
Right, and that's why they came
Yeah.
before us 2
Yeah.
weeks ago and we submitted our comments.
Yep.
And that was done.
And then they were going to get us plans and I got them yesterday. Today I got.
So you're now looking to issue additional comments
Yeah.
to,
And I think in regards to what you're saying, I could review and give recommendations for the connection for Quaker House Road and like, just make sure, you know, drainage from this isn't gonna adversely affect anything that the town of Mendon owns. But that's unfortunately for me as in my position representing the town, and then I think that's all I can review on this behalf.
then if that's what you can do, please do.
Okay.
We wanna see that the town's interests are met here.
This is on me. We'll take this one. I gotta give that back to the highway.
So I think, was there an electronic copy of this somewhere?
I've not received those yet.
Pen and paper for you.
Okay,
I can ask David Ford to send me
yeah, I mean,
a copy.
if so, that would be great. That obviously, we can completely look at these as is and go from there and just provide some recommendations, but outside of that, you know, I can't comment on like the subdivision layout and running of itself.
Unless
Earl, you may want to coordinate with the town board about employing
Yeah,
the
exactly.
engineer to,
Uh,
because I don't know what the town board's plan is in terms of commenting on this, but, you guys just may want to coordinate.
Okay.
Earl, do you see what I'm saying here?
I totally agree. I've already tried to contact the board.
Well, I don't know how quickly, I don't think the reviews, I would be very surprised if this review was done in
Yeah.
2 weeks or however long it is
Right.
before they get back, but I don't know, I can't say. You may have a better sense for that.
At least from an engineering standpoint, I don't think our firm has received this submission package from the village yet. So we haven't had a chance to look at this as a whole. Now, when we do, and I can definitely walk over to the guy's office and say like, hey, check these things out. I'll be doing this review on behalf of the town of Mendon, but I can't. There's obviously a line in the sand essentially where I can only comment on the things that are gonna affect the town.
Please do.
And so
what
I
you
could
can.
definitely, I could
That's
definitely do
fair.
that.
All right, do we have any other business? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn? Will we second that? All in favor? Thank you.
Quick note,
Yes.
Sue, Shop's attorney asked for it to be, moved to the September 16th meeting. They need additional time to, provide material. So we will not have a September 2nd meeting.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Happy trails, James.
Thank you.